What's going on, guys? Welcome to Inside the Horseshoe. My name is Matt. And this offseason, the Indianapolis Colts are going to have 14 different players enter free agency, which is quite a bit. So, what I wanted to do was make a video talking about who I believe the Colts should re sign and who should just walk and go to another team. Now, before I get into it, if you're new, if you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate if you click that subscribe button. Also, click the bell icon so you're notified when I upload a video or when I go live. If you like this video, smack that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you have a Twitter, make sure you follow me on Twitter at horseshoe_pod. There's a link in the description down below. So this offseason, the Colts, they're going to have $71 million to work with, which is a lot of money, but you got to remember about $10 million of that, it's got to go to the rookies. It's got to go to your draft picks. So you're working with about, what, $61 million, unless you cut a player that we're not really expecting to be released. You're going to have 61 to work with these guys and other free agents that you may want to bring in. So I'm going to talk about the players. I love these guys, but unfortunately, because you only have $61 million, some of them, they're going to have to go to another team. So let's start with the offense. Let's talk about Gardner Minshew. I love Gardner Minshew. He's the MVP of all MVPs. He's a great locker room guy. He's a great leader. He's really, really funny. He's super energetic. The guys, it just feels like they rally around him. Like, he is, in my opinion, a great backup quarterback, right? He's not a starter. You got to remember, he is not a starter. However, as a backup, I'm perfectly fine with him, right? Like, I'm good with a guy like Gardner Minshew. He did good things for us this year. He also did bad things. He was pretty inconsistent, but he's a backup quarterback. You can't expect him to be great consistently. You can't. That's just unrealistic to believe that he's going to be great all the time. Wish he would make better decisions, but again, he's a backup. He's going to make mistakes. So would I bring him back? Me personally, again, you're working with $61 million. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to say no. I would just focus on getting your backup in the draft. That's what I would personally do. Because when you look at the free agents that are going to be available, in my opinion, outside of Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill, maybe, I would take Gardner Minshew over everybody that's going to be in free agency. I would take him over Mitch Trubisky. I would take him over Jacoby Brissett. I would take him over Tyler Huntley. But if they bring him back, which I think that's probably what's going to happen, I'm not going to freak out. I'll be perfectly fine. I love Minshew. So if they bring him back for $3 to $5 million, it's not the end of the world to me. So now let's move on to running back Zach Moss. I love Zach Moss. When Jonathan Taylor was out, Zach Moss was great for us. I mean, he was the NFL leader in rushing yards, and he was missing a game because remember, he didn't play week one. So until Taylor came back, Zach Moss was the leader in the entire NFL when it came to rushing yards. He was awesome for us. I mean, that Titans game, that beautiful, beautiful Titans game, that was a great game. I love that game. In fact, I got it recorded and I'm probably going to watch it later. Zach Moss was great. Zach Moss destroyed them and it was lovely. I loved seeing that. Again, I love Zach Moss. However, I'm not bringing him back. I'm instead going to draft a running back, like late day two, day three. Depending on when you would take the quarterback, that would determine when I would take a running back. A guy like, Audric Estime. And honestly, if they don't take a quarterback in the draft or a running back in the draft, oh well. Let's see Evan Hull. Let's see what he does as a backup because when Taylor's playing, Hull, he's probably going to play a couple snaps a game as the backup. He's not going to play a crazy amount. So let's see him if you can't get a guy like an Estime, right? So I would let Zach Moss walk, let him get that bag, let him have an opportunity to start on another team. He deserves it. He's a very good running back. Let him get that opportunity. All right, so now we're going to move on to wide receiver. And honestly, this is the most important player to bring back. That is Michael Pittman Jr. Absolutely bring him back. It is very, very, very important to bring Michael Pittman back. I'm thinking to get Michael Pittman to re-sign, you're looking at some like a 5-year, $125 million deal. And he would average about $25 million per year. I think that's perfectly fine. Wide receivers, they make a lot of money. Okay, number one receivers make a ton of money. So $25 million a year, that's probably what the average is going to be pretty soon for number one receivers. Now, the thing about the salary cap is you can have the contract start at a lower amount but finish at a higher amount. And a lot of teams will do that because the salary cap it increases every single year. So it ends up working out to where you could pay them more in year 4, year 5 of their contract because that salary cap it's gone up so they can get more money. So you could do something like year one, 18 million to $20 million, and then you can get to year 4 or 5 and be 27 to 30, somewhere in that ballpark. Which may seem like a lot, but again, the cap it's going up and up and up, so it's not going to be that big of a deal. And honestly, I think receivers in 4 or 5 years, number one receivers, they're probably going to make over $30 million a year, which is crazy to think. But again, that position is so important for an offense. Quarterback's the most important. I would say left tackle is second most, but then it's wide receiver after that. I'm 1000% bringing Michael Pittman back again. Started off lower, that way you have a little more money to work with to bring other guys back and potentially sign a big free agent or two. So Michael Pittman, without a doubt, you got to bring him back. You got to get Anthony Richardson, his number one option. Now let's move on to the other wide receiver, Isaiah McKenzie. Isaiah McKenzie, he was suspended towards the end of the year. No idea what happened. I still don't know. But he is a free agent. He wasn't waived, so he could come back if the Colts want to bring him back. In my opinion, though, I'm not bringing him back. I I I have no issues with Isaiah McKenzie. I've none at all. He seems like a good guy. However, I'm going to get a receiver in the draft instead of re-signing Isaiah McKenzie. I think that would be the better route for this team. Just sign a guy or draft a guy and then you don't have to sign a receiver after that. So I would not bring back Isaiah McKenzie. No offense, I'm just not bringing him back. Now let's move on to our offensive line guard Danny Pinter. I like Danny Pinter. I think he was improving. I think he was getting better. It sucked how last year ended for him. Not even playing in the regular season. Ended up getting hurt in preseason. That sucks. That's awful. And it was like the last preseason game, and he got hurt. He was out for the season. So that was unfortunate. But would I bring him back? Yeah, I would bring him back. I think he's probably going to get about $3 million. That's probably what he'll get. And honestly, for a backup, that's not the end of the world. All right, so now we're going to move on to defense. And let's start off with defensive tackle Grover Stewart. To me, the second most important player to bring back is Grover Stewart, one of the best run stoppers in the NFL on the defensive line. Very talented player, very underappreciated. He needs to be appreciated more because he's a very good player who does really good things against the run, like I said, and he has improved when it comes to, you know, going after a quarterback. So me personally, I'm bringing him back. I'm looking at somewhere around 10 million. I think that's fair. I mean, a little less would be nice, but about 10 million is kind of what I'm thinking Grover Stewart's going to get. That's like less than half of what DeForest Buckner gets. So to me, it's not the end of the world. I would bring Grover Stewart back for 10 million a year. Bring him in forever. Bring him in forever. Don't let him go. Keep him here for as long as humanly possible. I love Grover Stewart. Like I said, one of the best run stoppers in the league. And honestly, you're not going to get a player as good as he is for the price that you could probably get him for. Because if you're going to get somebody better than him, you're looking at like a Chris Jones who's going to be making like 20 some million a year. So I'm looking at bringing Grover Stewart back for around 10 million. That's what I would do personally. Now we're going to move on to Taven Bryant on the defensive line as well. Me personally, I wouldn't bring him back. It's not the end of the world if they bring him back, but right now, I'm not going to bring him back. I'll just focus more on the draft when it comes to depth for like the defense. So Tyquan Lewis. We'll move on to the defensive end. Tyquan Lewis, I love him. I really do. This year didn't end in a season-ending injury, thankfully, but the 2 seasons prior had season-ending injuries. It was just awful. It was absolutely awful, and I was really happy to see him brought back all those times. However, I don't think I would bring him back. I mean, if it's a real cheap deal, Okay, I'm good with it. It's got to be like minimum type of deal. But I do think it's time to move on and bring in new blood. Personally, I think you can improve your defensive end position this offseason. You don't really need to bring him back again. If he does come back, I'm not gonna be upset. I'll be fine. I'll be happy because I do like Tyquan Lewis. But unfortunately, he's one of those guys I love that I'm gonna have to say no. He's not gonna come back. So I would let Lewis walk. Now we're gonna move on to Jacob Martin. No, he's not gonna come back. I don't think. Jannard Avery, Jannard Avery. No, I wouldn't bring him back either. Um, again, I would just look at bringing in other guys, draft or free agency. So no, I would let him walk as well. Then we're going to move on to linebacker that used to be safety, Ronnie Harrison Jr. I thought when he came in for Shaq Leonard, like, we converted him from a safety to a linebacker because we needed a linebacker. He went in, he made some plays, man. He did some good things. And he's a guy that I think the Colts will bring back because I don't think it's going to cost much money. But again, just thinking right now at what they will have to work with, I would say no. If they let a guy like Mo Alley Cox go, then I would bring back Ronnie Harrison. But at the time, no, I want it. I mean, if again you bring him back for a team friendly deal, I'm not gonna be upset. But yeah, I would let him walk, let him go to another team, let him get that opportunity. I think we're good at linebacker anyway. Like I think we're perfectly fine. So yeah, I would let Ronnie Harrison walk as well. Now we're gonna move on to the secondary, Kenny Moore. Kenny Moore this past season played much better than the season prior. The season prior, he was not good at all. He was really, really bad, and it was to the point where a lot of us wanted Kenny Moore out. However, he came back, played really, really good football, and he's a free agent. So, what would I do? Me personally, I'm bringing him back. Okay, you're pretty limited right now at the cornerback position. I think losing Kenny Moore would be pretty unfortunate, in all honesty. I think you need a guy like Kenny Moore back to play nickel. And honestly, I'm thinking around 12 million is probably what it's going to take. I believe he was getting paid what $8-9 million this past season. So give him a couple extra million, bring him back. I think that should be good. 12 million. Heck, I think maybe even 10 million could work. But I'm thinking 12 is kind of the price I'm thinking right now that it's going to take to bring Kenny Moore back. So I would absolutely bring him back. It's not a great market in free agency as well, outside of like Jalen Johnson. He's a guy I would absolutely bring in for sure. Him or Stephon Gilmore, he's going to be available. I'd be fine bringing him back as well. But besides that, I mean, there's really nobody available. So I would bring back Kenny Moore personally. Now let's move to safety. We're going to talk about Julian Blackman. I love Julian Blackman. When he's healthy, he is very, very, very good for us. Does a lot of good things. But he does get hurt, has an injury history from college. He's been getting hurt too in the NFL, so he does have an injury history. Me personally, I would bring him back. I'm thinking on the lower end though. I'm thinking 5 million. And again, people might think that's too low, but you got to think injuries. There's injury concern. I don't think he's going to get much more than $5 million. So I would bring him back. Maybe do like a year, 5 million. Give him an opportunity to come back and prove that hey, I'm perfectly fine. If you want to re-sign me, you got to offer me more money. So I would bring Blackman back, but it's got to be for somewhere around 5 million. So yeah, I would bring Julian Blackman back. I think that would be very important because our safety room is not the greatest right now. So I would bring Blackman back. And now we're going to move on to our punter, Rigoberto Sanchez, who came back from a season-ending injury this season. Started out a little rough, but he did bounce back and had a really nice season. Yes, bring him back. He's been good for us. One of the best punters in the league. I'm thinking 2.5 to 3 million is what it's going to take. The highest paid punter is getting paid like what 3.7, 3.8 million dollars. So like 3 million, I think would be fine. One of the higher paid punters in the league. He's one of the best punters in the league, so perfectly fine with that. So those are who I would bring back personally if I was running the Colts. So adding up all the numbers, you would get about 10 million left. After you take out like the rookie pay and all that fun stuff. Again, you can work with people, you can reconstruct contracts, you can have money on the lower end to start, but then increase as the years go on. That way, you can bring in other players that could really help your defense or your offense as well. So, there you guys have it. That's who I would re-sign. That's who I'd let walk. Let me know if you disagree with me in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching. If you're new, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be back making more content. It may not be every day, but I promise you more content will be coming as we approach the draft and next season, all that fun stuff. Should be a good time. I'm going to have videos for free agency, all that fun stuff, so make sure you subscribe. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I've been Matt, Bleed Blue, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like it, make sure you watch one of these other two videos. They're cool. Also, if you're new, please click the subscribe button as well as the bell icon. I greatly appreciate your support.